Hello and welcome back to Bookish Brits. My name is Michelle, and for this video we're going to be talking about May's Bookish Brits Book Club choices. Now, if you'll remember, those books were When Mr. Dog Bites by Brian Conaghan and Buffalo Soldier by Tanya Landman. Before we get into talking about the books, I'd like to just remind you that Bookish Brits have a Goodreads group. I'll leave a link down below in which you can discuss the books that are chosen, your thoughts. We aim to choose books that are written by British authors and also feature some sort of level of diversity. Book club videos are generally uploaded on the last Tuesday of every month. However, this one is slightly delayed because of half term at the end of May. I'm going to start with Buffalo Soldier by Tanya Landman because unfortunately I didn't finish this book. I was really enjoying it. I got about 90 pages into it and I sort of found myself hitting a very big reader slump. And I don't think that that has anything to do with this book in particular, but I did put this book down because it felt like it was heading towards a place that was very bleak. I did really enjoy the beginning of this book. It features our main character who's called Charlotte, and as the story progresses we really come to know her as Charlie. And Charlie was born a slave. She lives in the south of America, and slavery has just been abolished. I've heard a lot of stories about slavery, but I don't think that I've ever come across a book in which it's discussing what happens to the slaves after they've been freed, and that is really what Charlie's story is about. She's been freed, she has her freedom, but she doesn't have that many choices. There is a really harrowing scene in which she has kind of a mother figure and a man that's kind of protecting her and looking out for her, and a really vicious attack happens and Charlie kind of witnesses everything, and it was really hard for me to read how explicit that attack becomes. And anyway, Charlie then goes on to try to look for a place to live and to a way to provide for herself, and like I said, there aren't that many options. So what she does is she joins the army, and the army would then give her accommodation and regular meals. But what happens is that they go on this raid against the Native Americans, and what really attracted me to this book is the idea of somebody who has been enslaved their entire lives, and then once freedom is attained they go on to further oppress. I didn't read very far into the book, but I am still incredibly intrigued by this book. I got it from the library. I think I will definitely be renewing it and tackling the rest of this book very soon because it was incredibly good. On the Goodreads group we had Rachel write in her thoughts on this book, and she wrote, "I'm currently reading this, I'm about halfway through, and oh my goodness, I'm really enjoying this. The struggles the main character has gone through breaks my heart, yet she's as strong as ever." Now moving on to the second book that was chosen for this month, and that is When Mr. Dog Bites by Brian Conaghan. I did read this in May and really enjoyed it. The main character of this book is 16-year-old Dylan Mint. He has Tourette's. He's at the doctor's with his mother, and he overhears his doctor and his mother discussing him, and he overhears them saying that he has less than a year left to live. And he makes up a list of things that he'd like to do before he dies. There are 3 things on the list. The first is he wants to have sex, specifically with Michelle Malloy, a student at his school. The second is that he wants his best friend to have some friends so that he's not all alone after Dylan dies. And the third thing on his list is the fact that he wants his father to come home. Now, I found this book to be incredibly interesting. I'd never read a book about a character with Tourette's before. I didn't know that much about Tourette's, only that they have outbursts of swearing, and I think that there are a lot of things about Tourette's that I thought I knew about that turned out to be not so much the case. Another aspect that I really liked about this book is the fact that it is set in Glasgow, and Dylan and his friends say certain things, and they say them in certain ways that that really made me smile, and I loved that their sort of Glaswegian accent can be noticed throughout the text. It's really amusing. I think that Dylan in particular just has the most amazing voice ever anyway. He takes different phrases from different places, like he uses a lot of Cockney rhyming slang and kind of makes up his own versions of language, and I loved that. I love that about him. He doesn't, I'm not sure if it was because of, I wasn't sure if it was because of his Tourette's that he sounded and just seemed a lot more naive and younger than he is, but even though he is 16, he felt quite a bit younger than 16. As I started reading this book, I was thinking, I don't want to feel sorry for this character. He has Tourette's and it's different from other people, but I don't want to feel sorry for him. And I think that was one of the things about this book, is that I did feel sorry for him. There's one particular scene involving bullying in a local park, and I just thought, he doesn't really know what's going on, and that breaks my heart. But I didn't know how else to feel about it. I feel like it was a great insight into how other people think of Dylan and his friends in this special school. I really enjoyed all of Dylan's friends and his relationships with them. His best friend in particular was wonderful. They had great dialogue together. Amir is from Pakistan. He suffers quite a lot of racist abuse, as well as abuse because of his autism, the fact that they're in this special school, and his sort of differing, and how different he is. I thought that the racism surrounding Amir was an interesting aspect of the story. But I loved Dylan and Amir together. I loved Dylan and his mother in particular. There was one scene in the explaining about a hospital visit and the fact that she gives him this football book, and it was just explained so beautifully that it brought a tear to my eye. This book is told in a narrative format from Dylan's perspective, but it also has some text message exchanges between him and Amir, and it also has some letters that Dylan has written to his father, who is away in the army. I wasn't entirely sold on the ending and the conclusion to Dylan's dad's story, but overall I really enjoyed this book. It was an interesting read. Again, Rachel from Goodreads has written some of her thoughts on this book, and she's written about When Mr. Dog Bites. I finished this one and I did like it, but I did struggle getting into it. I loved the relationships between the characters. I could definitely see that. I think that it was really interesting right at the start, but it did take a kind of a push for me to get through the first 100 pages or so, but once I did, I really did enjoy it. That's it. Those are some of my muddled thoughts on these two books. Let me know if you've read them, if you are considering reading them. Do let me know. Bookish Brits Book Club has chosen The Art of Being Normal by Lisa Williamson for their June choice. Heard really amazing things about this book. I'm really intrigued to read it. I hope you will join us in reading this book during the month of June. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you again next time.